Hello, some adjective listener, and welcome to Setting the Record Queer, a podcast where queer people talk about the pursuits and communities they love. This is Minisode number 2, and it's called Setting the Records Year. My name's Kaylee, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm one of your hosts.
My name's Alexis, my pronouns are it, its, or she, her, and I'm your other host. And at the time you're listening to this, Kaylee and I are far too busy getting married to make an episode, which, for this podcast about happy queer experiences and lives, I hope a lesbian wedding is like an acceptable reason to not have an episode. Maybe? What do you think, Kaylee?
Well, no, I don't think that's quite an acceptable reason, which is why we have this mini-sode, so that you can have something to tide you over until next week, which will be another Taking the Minutes, by me this time, so hopefully those two things will be able to tide you over until our next proper episode. But for right now, it's been a year since we've started, just a little nice coincidence, so we're going to talk about a year of having done Setting the Record Queer.
Yeah, or as I like to call it, Setting the Records Year. Because this podcast started with puns, and that's why it's called Setting the Record Queer, and 1 year later, it hasn't stopped.
Wow, I can't believe it's been an entire year since we've started doing this. I think when we started, we weren't sure if we would keep doing it. We weren't sure what was going to happen. We thought that we might do 2 or 3 episodes. We thought that we might only be able to handle doing 1 a month, and I'm very, very happy to see that that hasn't been the case. The response to this podcast has been so overwhelmingly positive, and we get messages in our Discord and in our email and through our, through our Twitter DMs and publicly on Twitter about people recommending the show or liking the show, and it's really meaningful, and I never expected it to happen, so it makes me very happy.
Yeah, I still remember when Kaylee and I were, finishing up episode 0, we were talking, how many people do you think are going to listen to this? It's going to be, more than 10? And,
yeah, thank you, our 11 listeners.
And it has only grown since then, but this podcast has become a really important part of Kaylee and I's lives, I think is safe to say, and it's turned into something bigger than we were ever expecting, and we love doing it, and we hope to do it for, several more years at the very least, not just 1 more.
For the foreseeable future, we have no plans to stop doing it.
Correct.
And every episode has just been so fantastic. I love talking to our guests. I know I've said this a few times, but it's really, really true that we have never had a bad guest. We've done an entire year of episodes, and every guest has been wonderful, and we have had a fantastic time with all of them. We get to talk to so many cool people. We get to interact with fans a lot. We have the questions, and even saying fans is really weird.
And not only have we never had a bad episode, we walk away from at least every other episode going, we finish recording and I open my door and look down the hall and every other episode I go, Kaylee, that might have been our best episode yet. We've had so many incredibly interesting and talented guests, and it's just been, it's been amazing, and it's been such a privilege to hear all of these incredible stories. Yeah,
and, oh gosh, and some of the people we've had on, it's weird, because we've definitely had more than a couple guests where it's been I'm a fan of your work specifically before we do this.
Lena Rain?
Lena, yeah, I did embarrass myself a little bit in that episode. Had an opportunity to edit out, didn't for artistic integrity. By which I mean, I don't know. What kind of podcaster would I be if I cut out the jokes at my own expense?
Yeah, but speaking of not editing things out, we don't even have that opportunity anymore. With how much this podcast has grown and how much Patreon support we've received, we can pay an editor now. That's something we never expected to be able to do, and it's allowed us to do more content like Taking the Minutes. I'm a sentimental queer.
Oh wait, no, you didn't mess it up. But yeah, what we're going to do is we've talked a little bit. I think we're going to talk about some of our memories from the shows, some of the stuff we've done, some of, I think, what we kind of want going forward. It's a lot of the same. And we'll talk a little bit about, I think we're each going to share both our favorite episode and our favorite episode to record as well at the end. And that's a tough choice, let me tell you.
Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, like I said, we've never had a bad episode. Ever.
No, not once. Another thing that I was never expecting, I know I've said that a lot this minisode, but something I was never expecting to be able to do would be to do a live episode, and we've had 2.
Yeah, our live shows were super fun. Just as for some context, we did a live show about speedrunning at Awesome Games Done Quick 2019, and then we did a live show about the anime fandom, and a couple various facets of that at ToraCon 2019. Both of those were tons of fun, and like, not only that, for both of those live shows, the rooms that we were doing them in were practically full.
I can't believe that was the case.
Like, I was sort of expecting that for the AGDQ one because, like, I'm popular and there weren't that many panels at the event, and it seemed like a lot of people were just going to all of them.
And we got
but then we get to the
confirmation
ToraCon one, and we get into the room, and we set up and we tell the person, okay, you can let people come in now. And then there is just a flood of people, and every seat in the room was full. And I was expecting, like, maybe 5 people. It was incredible.
Yeah, I still can't believe that one.
I did the recording for that episode on a little field microphone, and it was literally clipping and peaking when the audience clapped because of how many people there were.
Oh my
It was
God.
amazing.
I am so glad the audio on that one was salvageable. I was worried it wasn't, but it turned out okay.
It was a lot better than I was expecting. Shout outs to field recorders for being really, really good.
God, something else just I want to talk about briefly is rewriting the record. That was a huge undertaking, and I'm so excited to do it again next year.
Yeah, me too. Despite how mine went in the end, I cannot wait to do it again. I have learned my lesson that next time I should pick something that doesn't involve other people, but I'm excited to do it again. And also, you should go read Kaylee's book.
Yeah, I've looked at my itch download statistics, and I was shocked. I expected maybe 2 or 3 people to download it and 1 to read it, and also that one to be Jazz who proofread it for me. But no, it did well, and I got a lot of positive feedback, and doing that episode, I've been wanting to write more. I might try to write some short stories or something sometime soon, maybe, or another similar length thing, but not like the same type of thing. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
Spontaneous proposal. A setting the record queer brand audio drama written by you and narrated by me.
That is not the kind of podcast that we do here.
Look, it's in the setting the record queer brand. It doesn't have to be the same.
I'll tell you, okay, if you want to make an audiobook of a book, I have the perfect book for you, and it's called I Agreed to Help Test My Friend's New ARG, but now I look like my avatar, and my friend doesn't really seem concerned, and I don't think I am either.
I mean, if you wanted me to make an audiobook of your book, I'd do it. I love narrating things.
I'm gonna cut you promising that out, because otherwise people are gonna hold you to it.
Maybe. But I guess on a more serious note involving things we'd like to do for the podcast in the future, one of my goals for year 2 is to continue to grow our Patreon so that we can afford to pay a transcriber, because that's something we'd really like to do. Unfortunately, podcasts as an audio medium are not necessarily accessible to deaf and hard of hearing people or people with vocal processing difficulties like me. And while YouTube's auto captions are halfway decent these days, we really want to do full captions. So one of our goals for this year is to continue growing the Patreon and be able to pay a transcriber, because this is not something we'd ask someone to do for free. I've been doing my research into rates and stuff like that, which is why there isn't a goal on the Patreon yet, but probably soon I'll put that up so we can start to push for it.
A couple other things we want to do, although these are much more of stretch goals that I don't see us reaching anytime soon, but hey, we could always be surprised. But a couple other things that we want to do long term, if we get lucky. We'd like to go to more events and do more live shows and maybe travel a bit, if we can manage that. And then there's also merch. We would love to be able to make pins and stickers and t-shirts.
Yeah, putting those two things together, Kaylee and I were thinking about trying to get out to some of the big podcasting events that happen, trying to, market and network, be that one booth in the vendor's room that sells all of the pride flags and stuff, and it would be great.
But yeah, that's the what happens if we massively overshoot our wildest dreams type. The point is we have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think the only thing left for this episode, this minisode, is we're each going to share our favorite episode to record, the one we had the most fun with, and the ones we're the most proud of. So Alexis, why don't you give me your most fun episode first?
Most fun episode to record. Kaylee and I did talk about these beforehand, but
We just wanted to make sure we didn't get the same one.
yeah. These were both really hard decisions. Let me be very clear. But I think my pick for most fun to record was our episode on satire writing with Quinn Brown from The Hard Times. Quinn was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
his interview tone matched his writing, and it was incredible. It was amazing. We had so much fun.
If you haven't listened to that one, you're missing out. I'm going to say that about all 4 of the ones that are coming up, but
Yes.
oh my gosh, Quinn was one of the funniest guests we've had. I mean, he's a comedy writer, so that shouldn't be too surprising, but
Yeah. Well, what about you, Kaylee? What was your favorite episode to record?
I think it came across in the episode how much fun we were having with this one. If you listen back to it, you can notice like we were just all goofing around and having a great time. But doing Kickstarter game development with Eniko and Critter Dust, it was an absolute blast. We just joked around a lot. We had a lot of fun things to talk about.
Snake.
Yeah, we ended up not making Snake.
Yeah, that episode was both incredibly interesting and informative and just a great time. Eniko and Critter Dust were wonderful, wonderful guests. And they're also wonderful people, present tense.
Yeah, and you should keep an eye on their game development stuff because Lore Finder looks great still.
Yeah, go follow Eniko for Cat Slime Does a Dungeon development updates. You can thank me later.
Oh, and yeah, there's Eniko's Twitter is just like Pico 8, the fake retro console. Just it's super interesting. I'm both a programmer and an indie game developer, and I don't understand half the things on her Twitter, but I love looking at them. All right, well, now it's time for the big one. Alexis, which episode that we've done would you call your favorite overall?
The episode that I am the most proud of, that I think we just like painted an incredible picture of a queer person and what they do, was honestly our most recent episode with Rabbi Rachel Gurovitz. That was such an incredibly unique topic, and Rabbi Gurovitz was like so well spoken, which I was expecting given who she is and what she does, but it was incredible. That episode was like, if I had to pick one to, give like a networking agent or something, or really just anyone to be like, yeah, this is what I do, it would be that one.
Okay, this one's already come up on this podcast or on this specific episode before, but like, and I know I'm biased because I'm such a big fan of hers, and I still can't believe we had her on the podcast. But getting to interview Lena Raine, I am so happy that we got to do that, and I am so happy with that episode, and I'm really glad I'm happy with that, because I feel like I could look back on that one and be like, oh, that's such a wasted opportunity, but I don't feel like that. I'm really happy with the job we did on that one, and I'm really happy with that episode.
Mm-hmm. That one was very... The two favorites that we've mentioned have in common that we were both very, very nervous while doing them. But they both turned out really well, I think.
See, something that's so hard about this episode is that we're done, and I want to give honorable mentions to talk up how so many of these other episodes were good. But the problem is that I would start at episode 1 with Xandra and end at episode 25, 24, I don't remember.
I think we can do it. All right. Real quick, let me do Alexis's official honorable mentions for year 1 of Setting the Record Queer. I'd like to give an honorable mention to every episode in the inclusive range of episode 1 to episode 23 for being awesome. Done.
I really wish we could just shout out all of them, but at that point, there's no point to it. It's such a weird experience being on a guest-based podcast, because the thing about it is that, like, I feel like a lot of podcasters kind of get to look back and develop feelings about their own episodes. But for us, it's very tied into what the guest was doing. So, like, I think if it was just me and Alexis, I would look back and hate the old episodes. Because I would notice all these little problems with them, and I would have problems with my own critique. But because we're guest-based, like, I can't do that because I look back and was like, well, we were still getting our footing, but our guests managed to do a great job even while we were still a little bit puttery. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this minisode. We're gonna leave it here. look forward to taking the minutes next week, and that episode is going to be by me, and it's going to be about failure and giving up, which is something I kind of want to talk about. You'll get more details next week, and after that, we'll be back to our regular schedule.
And we'll be married.
And we'll be married.
God.
It's like season 2.
Oh my god. This is weird. I'm way too young for this. This is really weird, and I'm really excited. Yeah, so look forward to the next Taking the Minutes. Looking forward to episode 25. And Kaylee and I will see you again after we have done the wedding.
Thank you so much for your support on this podcast over the last year and for listening to this episode.
Here's to year 2, baby!
Whoa!